One of my favorite games from the recent clan war between the Night Crew and XMT definitely has to be Qualaduk's double Frostworm. Today we're going to see another game from him featuring the double Frostworm, this time against pretty much the opposite. Of course, in that game he faced an all-cavalry army, and today he's up against the Dwarfs, which is, yeah, they do have some gyros though. There's 3 gyros there. We've got a front line of some Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, miners with blasting charges, plenty of Slayers, including 1 Giant Slayer, and some Longbeards, great weapons, kind of protect the flanks and rear as well. Then the 3 Gyros, of course, as mentioned, Norsca Warhounds, and then the 2 Frost Wyrms up in the sky. A bunch of Marauder great weapons. We've got Wulfric on foot, and some Marauder Horsemen as well for a little bit of skirmish. Of course, they can get in there, danger close, and wreck those Giant Slayers pretty effectively. Dwarfs going with almost entirely melee-focused build, and I love the attack, of the Hounds, attempted attack at least, of the Hounds on the Slayers. It does look like they're able to charge in and do a substantial amount of damage on the charge because of the way their models surround. Of course, they'll pretty easily be beaten back cost-effectively. I mean, it's not cost-effective, I should say, in terms of the gold spend, but it does keep at least the Slayers away for a moment. I don't know, it wasn't really timed necessarily with the Frostworms here, but the Frostworms are definitely staying firm for the time being. We're seeing a little bit of skirmish from the Marauder Horsemen into the Gyros, and no surprises, the infantry of the Dwarfs is prevailing pretty heavily over said Marauders, but as long as these Frostworms are still alive, there's still plenty of chance for Norsca to get in here. See about lining up some of these breath attacks here. Also got that Lore of Death Caster sent into tactical reserve. Definitely never ever something that I do. No, I'm being sarcastic, of course. I do that all the time. But he is going to come forward, better late than never, I suppose. And looks like he's rocking just Fata Buna. So looking to nuke some elite infantry here, like those Giant Slayers potentially. Even with the magic resistance they have normally, plus the extra from Thorek, it's still quite good. But Frostworm is going to come down. Giant Slayers move into melee there. It's going to be pretty dangerous. We've got another breath attack going off on the far side, though. Over this blob that Wulfric had kind of formed up on himself. He's going to go ahead and pull back from those Dwarfs, as they've all been frostbitten, and thus cannot pursue as foot Wulfric. Of course, the dread Wulfric on foot cycle charge. Never expected, but hardly effective as well, honestly. Frostworms, again, patiently just letting their breath attacks recharge, letting the infantry fight it out, and not really wanting to overcommit to any dangerous engagements. The steam guns are the gyros here. They don't have the brimstone guns, which would be quite dangerous to the Frostworms. Of course, the Frostworms would then have to prioritize chasing them down, which they are doing to a degree. One takes a chunk out of those gyros right there. But yeah, it's just kind of infantry grinding for a little bit as these Marauder Horsemen use up their ammunition. Of course, the Dwarfs, like I said, don't have a lot of skirmish units, so it's not like they can really sit and shoot much either. The gyros are pressuring a little bit, but steam gyros don't have that great of armor-piercing damage. They're more based around their explosive damage being pretty good against unarmored infantry especially, but just in general. Fortunately, I mean, they do have some Marauders they could be firing at here potentially, but there's not a lot of great targets in this battle. Eventually, Qualaduk's going to decide that he wants to remove the threat of the gyros before they've used up too much of their ammunition, which is definitely smart. This one over here maybe being put in tactical reserve as well, but the Marauder Horsemen helping to break the leadership here, get that attacked by missile leadership debuff. Oh, I didn't even realize got some Marauder champions mixed in here. Okay, that makes a big difference. Yeah, is it just, what, 2 champions out on the flanks? Makes a lot more sense as to why they're actually winning in melee, especially against, like, you know, Longbeards, who are not pushovers by any means. Definitely solid mid-tier great weapon infantry, if not the most offensively focused. Wulfric also has got to be pretty careful here. He doesn't take too much damage fighting Thorek early. Definitely with champs in the late game. He didn't actually bring Hunter of Champions. Definitely a risky play, but overall, The Dwarfs are slowly getting ground down, and the Frostworms haven't even had to do a ton. I mean, 850 on value on one, 706 on the other. Yeah, they've been just kind of patiently biding their time here. A lot of the damage, honestly, has been done by those champs. Now we see a Fate of Buna going off on these Longbeards. And yeah, Wulfric also getting rounded off, but I guess 2v1 should be no problem for the Frostworm to try and take out Thorek. And of course, since the Dwarfs are fairly spread out by now with all those slowing effects, it's not likely that Thorek would be able to escape here, but Qualiduck not engaging for the time being. Again, just trying to stay very patient with those Frostworms. Oh yeah, throw a little Breath Attack down there. Breath Attack from the Frostworm is not necessarily great against single entities. Definitely better against blobbed up multi-model units. But still, champs, man. Holding out like champs, it must be said. Fighting those Longbeards almost to the death. The Longbeards also holding out like champs as well, it must be said. Not necessarily winning there, but it's very, very bloody engagement, it must be said. And the Frostworms at this point probably could start cycle charging a lot of this infantry fairly aggressively, like just start taking big chunks out of these miners. But again, Qualiduck showing his patience, just using those breath attacks to best effect, and then finally moving them down into melee. It's not like the Dwarfs as a faction really need much slowing, but when you have some, it just makes their life that much more painful. Try to maneuver their infantry around to reinforce each other. It's, yeah, pretty decent stuff, all things considered. The one is going to fight momentarily, but doesn't want to stick around too long to fight, you know, the remaining Slayers and so forth. So it's going to charge back up into the air. I love the gyros also trying to chase Wulfric the Wanderer off. It's definitely a good play when you're playing as the Dwarfs to use gyros in such a manner once they're out of ammunition. Of course, they're not really going to contribute much. And, you know, the gyros actually here, I think this is a mistake, charging into the Marauder Horsemen. With the amount of ammunition they have left, they could probably do a pretty good amount of damage to the Marauder Horsemen. I mean, not that that's super important since they've used up all their ammo anyway, the Marauders, that is. But let's see here. We'll fast forward a little bit as Qualiduck kind of finishes off the last of the gyros. Might have, what, one more breath attack? Nope, just decides to try and full snipe on Thorek, with a lot of the dwarf units being out of position. Little stutter stepping there from the ice worms, frost worms, as they pull away. Come in for another cycle charge. Good timing on that, as Rune of Doom was just popped. I say good timing from Norsca's perspective, of course. Dwarfs are feeling the pain right now, definitely, of their faction design. But eventually they're going to come in, and it won't take long. I mean, to be fair, Qualiduck probably could have cleaned that up a little bit earlier, but still, I understand just wanting to play it patient, not really give your opponent any opportunities to get any good engagements. And I gotta say, the champs, surprise champs on the flanks, definitely pretty impactful. Marauders, of course, they do their thing. A few of them are going to pay for themselves. And the Frostworms also. I mean, tactically, being able to take out the gyros, again, even though they weren't brimstone guns, they still could have taken out brimstone guns, as long as, yeah, they do so fairly quickly. The brimstone guns, it's going to be heavy micro to try and keep them alive, so yeah, with that chilling aura, we can look at that difference in speed here in just a minute to really drill down on that. But Marauder Horsemen paid for themselves as well. Kind of like Meat Shield Wulfric, to be honest. Didn't think they were going to be able to take out Thorek, but I guess these two in the late game definitely have enough hitting power to do so. The Slayers mostly worn down without paying for themselves by the infantry and skirmish and so forth. And I guess that's really why Qualiduck kept these guys back for so long, is, as we saw there, potentially a rune of slowness. Don't know why that's a tongue twister today, but it is. Anyway, it could have slowed them down significantly and allowed these Slayers to get a lot more damage in. But, yeah, just using those breath attacks all... A lot of people won't even use, like, you know, 2 breath attacks. Myself, I'm mostly talking about myself here, depending on how long the battle goes. But really, I mean, if you want to get the best values from your dragon, you really should use all 3 breath attacks. Those by themselves can just about pay for the dragons, depending on the situation. But anyway, let's look at the speed differential between these units real quick, as we go ahead and take a look at Yeah, Norsca and gyros. I want to say gyros for the dwarfs are faster. Yeah, 105 speed. So in theory, they should be able to stay out in front. But of course, if you let the frostworms get too close, that chilling aura is already 30%, which is enough to pretty much put them within range of that 70 speed. Sorry, 90 speed. I was looking at leadership. 90 speed of the frostworm, which is, yeah, definitely. I mean, 30% is definitely enough. So you have to stay kind of far away, and this is a 35-meter radius, which, I mean, like, the range for brimstone guns is only 100, so it's really tricky, especially with gyros trying to, like, turn and shoot, not being always super responsive on move orders as well. Does mean that, yeah, actually kiting with them is incredibly micro-intensive and usually just unnecessarily risky, especially because once they do catch you, it's all over. So it's Froststorm's actually pretty decent. I mean, obviously they're at risk, as all monsters are, of the missiles of the dwarfs, but Norsca definitely has enough mobility to shut them down and provide support accordingly. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm definitely coming around to the idea that Frostworms are really certified, not a meme anymore. Seem like pretty good units in a lot of situations. Let me know what you guys think, though. Maybe I'm just insane. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.